Hello and welcome to Spare Change News TV. My name is Sam Baltrusis. I am the editor-in-chief of Spare Change News. Joining me today is Bo Mann. Bo is the founder and the CEO of Sober Grid. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
So Bo, how did you come up with this brilliant idea of Sober Grid?
I was in Park City, Utah at the Sundance Film Festival, and I was alone and I wanted to connect with other sober people. And being a gay guy, I know that there's a lot of apps out there to connect me with other gay guys, but I wanted to connect with guys or girls that were sober and go skiing, grab coffee, and that's where I came up with the idea about 3 years ago.
Now, tell our viewers, what is Sober Grid?
Sober Grid is a geosocial networking app. So with the touch of a button, you can find other sober people near you. Whether you're at home or traveling, you can open the app and it'll show you a sober person feet away or miles away.
So if I wanted to download it, do you have to be a part of a 12-step program to be part of Sober Grid?
No, so we've had a soft release, and in the first week we had almost 3,000 people download Sober Grid, and there are people in 12-step programs, and there's a lot of people that are not in 12-step programs. Some are in recovery programs, and others are just sober by choice.
Now, it's a great idea. So you came up with the idea based on your need. How difficult has it been to actually make it a reality, to actually not soft launch, but to actually come out this past week?
So it's been a labor of love. I started working on it, developing Sober Grid last summer, and as you just said, we had a soft release in the last 10 days, and it was a lot of work up to that point. We worked night and day on it, and we're really excited, and the response has been incredible. I mean, people from Australia, London, New York, and it's without officially being released, it's having a fantastic response.
I think it's a great idea because we have a really strong 12-step community here in Boston. However, what if you're in a small town in Florida, which I was at one point? Are you finding that the people from all over the globe, and specifically small towns, are gravitating towards Sober Grid?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're finding people in large cities and in remote places. I've been chatting on Sober Grid with someone that was in Thailand, and
wow.
He was a British guy, and now he's back in the UK, and he wanted to chat with other sober people.
That's fantastic. Now, I've seen other apps out there, but what makes Sober Grid special?
Sober Grid is really the first time that anyone's trying to build out a sober grid in the world to where you can connect with other sober people. And I think that's really special. We also have a news feed. It's an anonymous app, so you can disclose as much information as you want or as little as you want to disclose. And I think by having those features, really building out a global sober community using technology is the first of its kind, and it's really exciting.
The one thing that I was impressed with Sober Grid is that it wasn't really focusing on dating, which I've seen other apps do, like the sort of the GPS-driven dating apps. And you guys offer a different type of experience. You're kind of gearing towards connection as opposed to like finding your next partner or hooking up.
Absolutely. So myself, being a sober person, it's very important to connect with other sober people. And so just as the need to find someone to date and mate with is very important, if you're sober, it's also important to find someone so that you can remain sober and get sober if you're not currently sober. That need is just as strong.
Now, I was talking to Nick, who's going to be on the show a little bit earlier. There were 1,000 opioid-related deaths in Massachusetts last year, so this is a huge epidemic. Are you finding that this is sort of a way for them to kind of get into the sober community without necessarily doing the 12-step program? Like, what are your thoughts on sort of like the large amounts of deaths happening in Massachusetts, and what can they do, or what can Sober Grid do to help them?
Absolutely. I think Nick was saying earlier that there's been more deaths from opiates in Massachusetts than there were in past wars that we had. The Sober Grid allows people that are in 12-step programs in recovery to connect with other people, which is essential. We're seeing that in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, that there's people that are not in 12-step programs, and by connecting with other people, they were able to stay sober. I have people messaging me daily, just saying, you've really helped me, get into sobriety and this healthy lifestyle.
And I was looking at the comments of people that were downloading the app, and it was pretty remarkable. Like, people were giving you 5 stars. What are some of the things? What are people saying? Like, what are the comments in regards to people that downloaded Sober Grid?
The feedback and the comments is incredible. I mean, people are so excited, and I think there's a lot of pent-up demand for this, Sam. Hell yeah, an app like this finally exists. This is about time. This is amazing. This rocks. Without looking at some of the comments, I mean, they're incredible. I mean, people are so excited by this, and people are writing in and thanking me for building Sober Grid.
Now, Bo and Nick are going to be featured in the upcoming edition of Spare Change News, which is why they're on the show tonight. I also, like, you had a photo shoot the other day. How was the photo shoot for Spare Change?
Oh, the photo shoot was great. We were in front of the Pru, which was a nice grid backdrop.
Yeah, I was really happy with the photos. I'm like, this is amazing. So, with that, like, this is, there's issues in regards to anonymity. What do you guys do to safeguard people's anonymity who go on the grid?
Yeah, so I wanted to create, anonymous apps are really big right now, whether it's dealing with sobriety or recovery. You see a lot of apps that are becoming popular because Facebook doesn't allow for anonymity. You must use your real name, and you can't use a nickname with Facebook. And specifically because a lot of the Sober Grid members are people in recovery who may be accustomed to anonymity, it was important, but also because it's very popular outside of recovery. I wanted to build Sober Grid to where you could use it anonymously. So you can have a profile picture, but you don't need to. You can also have a nickname or your real name if you so choose. You can sign up using your Facebook credentials. It does nothing. It doesn't link you to Facebook, and no one's aware of it, but you don't have to. That's just an option if you wanted to. You can sign up with an account free and anonymously.
Now, I was looking at the different icons and the functionality of Sober Grid. There was one part of it. There was like a flame. What does that mean? It was like a flame icon.
Yes, the flame is is a burning desire. So some of the features that we put in to the app is a burning desire. So if someone needs support, let's say if you're out at a family event or on a cruise ship or in an airport, and people around you are drinking, and maybe you want some sober support, you can click the burning desire button. It'll put a red box around you. And since it's location-based, people around you will know, hey, this person's around and they have a burning desire. The other feature that we put in there is a need a ride button. So I used to live in Houston, and I have a friend of mine who was speaking with a guy on Facebook that had just came back from overseas and was living in the middle of Long Island. And he called me and said, Bo, you used to live in New York. Can you reach out to this young guy and maybe help him? He's sober and he's struggling to be sober. And so I ended up reaching out to him, and he was open to going to a 12-step meeting and getting some support. And I lived in East Hampton before, and I lived in New York City, but I had never lived in the middle of Long Island, so I didn't know any sober support groups that are people that could help him. And I made some calls and tried to find some. So I figured that, and this happened while I was building the app, so I figured that if I could build in something where there were certainly people in his town that were sober people that could support him. So now having that in there, I could have told him to get on there, and it would have put a blue box and notified the people around him that he could use some sober support or ride.
Well, and just like sort of the lingo and 12-step programs, like if you're triggered, like flying, for example, could be really stressful for a lot of people. And I've heard people talk about using it. They're in airports and I've heard people actually call over the loudspeaker, for any friends of Bill W. Have you any specific places like you mentioned cruise ships, like places that you think that with Sober Grid would be a huge asset and a tool?
I think everywhere, particularly if you're traveling. For myself, I travel quite often, and I go to a hotel, and there's it's very popular to go to the hotel bar, and it would be nice to be able to find other sober people to connect with. So hotels is one example, airports is another. Going to the Sundance Film Festival, and everyone's going to the parties and having drinks, and I don't drink. I don't want to go to the bars or the parties. I want to go skiing and grab coffee, and so vacations is another big helpful reason.
So this is a great idea, but what is your true motivation? Like why are you so passionate about Sober Grid?
I think it can help others, and I know that it has helped me, and I really just want to help people. I mean, sobriety is probably one of the most important things in my life, and I think that if I can help other people with that, then it's the best thing I can do.
Now, in regards to making this a reality, has this been this? I'm sure it's been a lot of stress, but have you had? How has it affected your sobriety in your life, making this app a reality?
So I think it was very challenging to build the app. I mean, it took a great deal of time, and I think it's reinforced my sobriety. And as I said, Sober Grid is for people that are in recovery programs, the various ones, some 12-step, some non, and some people that are just sober and they don't necessarily need a support group. But for myself, I use support groups, and with connecting with other sober people on there and helping people and people helping me, it certainly improved my life.
Well, I'm really excited about Sober Grid. So you're working on the July 9th launch. It's going to be in New York City. Is that open out to the public yet, or?
No, we haven't officially invited it.
Okay.
We've invited some
Whoops.
some people, and so yeah, we're having a video produced in Brooklyn at Bond Street Studios, and then afterwards we will have a worldwide launch party.
So stay tuned, because we probably will have a Boston area party at some point. Of course, it's going to be a sober party. And it's been a pleasure knowing you, Bo, and I'm really excited about this project. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
So we're going to actually we're going to go online and walk through the application, and I'm going to switch over to our online here. Okay. Joining me now is Nick Krasuki. How are you doing, Nick?
Doing well, Sam.
So what's your role with Sober Grid?
I am the Chief Financial Officer. I also support with operations for the company reporting into Bo.
And so how did you get involved with Sober Grid?
Well, I knew that Bo had been kicking around this idea for quite some time. Last summer, he had started working on it, had put together a team, got some seed capital, and started work on the app itself. And I got involved a couple months later. As he started to get closer to the point of releasing it to the app stores.
So we're going to actually go to the website to kind of walk through. So someone's actually going to sobergridapp.com, and they have an Android device. What do they do?
Sure, they can select either, if they have an iPhone, they can select the Apple Store. If they have an Android device, they can download it from the Google Play Store.
Okay. And then when you actually click on the Google Store, you kind of get an idea what it looks like. And
so what you see featured here are a couple key functionalities of the app. The first being the GPS locator, so you can find individuals who are nearby you within your proximity, other sober people, part of the Sober Grid community. And this functions wherever you are in the world. You can use it to find somebody overseas or anywhere in the U.S.
Well, it looks like you already have a lot of models signed up already.
Yes, and there are some very good-looking people on the grid. I will say that. But of course, there's it's all inclusive. Sober Grid's really for anyone who's sober, whether they're in a 12-step program or not. The age is 17 to 103, male, female, regardless of your background, gender, socioeconomics. It's really for everyone.
All right, so looking here, it says 4.5 stars. That's pretty amazing. Like for reviews already. That's awesome. And you look at what they're saying here. Been searching for a social app like this. Still trying to get used to it. And I'm a skeptical person, but so far so good. So you're getting great reviews. That's awesome. Now, as far as we talked a little bit before about the opioid crisis in Massachusetts, which is a huge deal for Spare Change News because a lot of our readers have been touched by someone, either their loved one has passed or someone's struggling with opioid addiction. Tell me about your experience with that.
Sure. Well, as you know, opioid is I think it's an underreported and it's underreported enormous problem in Massachusetts. There have been more individuals who've lost their lives to opioid overdose than in Afghanistan and Iraq combined. It's underreported. I think it's largely ignored, but it's a very real crisis right now. My own brother suffers from opioid addiction as well, and has struggled with it. So it's hit my family as well. I believe that Sober Grid will help those who are trying to get sober, newly sober, those that are trying to turn a new leaf and escape the confines of opioid addiction by getting much needed support. I got sober myself by engaging support from other sober people, and I feel that Sober Grid will be a great tool to help those people get sober as well. And we have some members of the Sober Grid community who are already on day 1, 2, 3, and are giving us feedback saying, "Thank you so much for helping me through these very early days." And as Bo had mentioned, we believe Sober Grid's going to save lives.
Now, I just want to stress, this is not affiliated with any 12-step program. So it's you have all different types of people that are dealing with different types of addictions. Is there any, is it working out that it's a tool to help, say, someone who's recovering from heroin versus someone who's an alcoholic?
I think fundamentally, although Sober Grid is not allied or affiliated with any 12-step program, there's certainly a significant proportion of our community that are from those programs. And so Sober Grid does a really great job of keeping those programs anonymous, but also allowing the culture of recovery to really take hold. And that culture is one addict or alcoholic helping another.
Yeah.
And that making that connection with another sober person is really the foundational cornerstone of all 12-step programs. And whether it's alcohol or other substances, Sober Grid is an avenue for people to connect, regardless of their substance of abuse, and whether they have one day or multiple years, it's that same level of support and connectedness that really allows individuals to sustain and maintain their sobriety.
What I like about it is it's it's a healthy alternative to, say, using another type of app online to connect to, say, your sponsor or to other friends in the community. So it's it's based on the focus is recovery as opposed to meeting somebody or dating, which I've seen that's kind of prevalent in other apps I've seen online. Now, do you feel like there's also some issues in regards to online addiction? Are you addressing people who are maybe addicted to online apps?
I don't think we've really hit that one, and although Sober Grid provides an avenue for people to connect and maintain their sobriety, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
It is social interconnectedness with individuals who have a common experience, and that's a strong positive aspect to the app. The other thing too is we have content, original content from our members, as well as shared content and articles related to health and fitness and other aspects where we also have a lot of funny comedic material that we're also rolling out through the news feed. So there's more to Sober Grid than just the bare functionality of connecting sober people. That's the foundation, and that's certainly our mission. But we want to make it a fun place, a destination, a place where people can go to check in, see their friends, make new friends. And it's not a dating app, but if two individuals happen to meet up, who like each other and start a relationship, then that's just wonderful.
I actually think about, when I think of Sober Grid, I think of sort of like Facebook for sober people.
And that's, I think, Sam, really something that we've gotten a lot of feedback from our members, in that they don't feel like they can be on Facebook and be sober and be open about their struggles and their sobriety, and that's a real barrier. There are some groups within Facebook that are restricted groups with only members who are sober, but it's not an open thing where individuals can get on Sober Grid and you're surrounded by people who are sober. So there's sort of like this idea of letting your hair down and relaxing that they can't do on any other app.
Well, you talked about humor and having fun. So we actually have our 23rd anniversary Spare Change News. It's going to be at the Nerd Center tomorrow from 6 to 9. Our keynote speaker is Jimmy Tingle, who's a comedian. You like Jimmy Tingle. I actually just got an email from Jimmy today thanking me. I wrote a column about Jimmy last week because he and I worked together years ago. And I'm really excited about the event. We also have our upcoming cover, which you're going to be in the next edition. You and Bo are going to be in Spare Change News coming out this Friday, and we have a sneak peek of the cover. Ta-da! We have Weird Al Yankovic is our upcoming story, so should be kind of a riot. So you're going to be in the Weird Al Yankovic story. And also, just to kind of give you an idea, this is our current edition of Spare Change News. Jimmy Tingle is on the cover of Spare Change News. So Nick, any closing thoughts? Like, what do you want people to take away from this experience and from Sober Grid?
Well, I think if I could ask one thing is to just give the app a try. If you are sober, certainly check it out, give it a shot, engage with the community. It's a great way to give back for those of us who've been sober for many 24 hours. And also that it's a global sober community, and it's a community that I feel will grow and expand, and there's a lot of great things that'll be going on with Sober Grid coming down the road in the next few months and years as well. So the takeaway is if you know somebody who's struggling, have them check out the app, and if you're sober yourself, give it a shot. We'd love to have you in the community.
So again, just for our viewers, to be able to download, you need to go to sobergridapp.com. We're going to go back to the interface and either go to the Google Play Store or to the iPhone Play Store. So again, sobergridapp.com. Any other, like, where do they go for online? Is there a Facebook community as well? Like, what other social media do you guys have?
Sure, we're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. So we have a presence on all of the major social media platforms. Type in Sober Grid, and you could certainly find us, like us, and certainly would appreciate your support.
And of course, you can always go to sparechangenews.net. We're going to have a link to Sober Grid.